Hey, what is up? I'm back, and today we're doing a review of the CW lineup for the DC shows. So let's go ahead and get right into it. The first thing I want to talk about the first 5 episodes of Supergirl. Supergirl started off very interesting. In fact, I thought they were going a whole route where she thought she was going to be God, or she's gonna move into that I'm not human because no one else can do what I did. My sacrifice. I'm ascending humans, and I was hoping to go in maybe into a darker path where she just doesn't live anybody, and she doesn't think the rules apply to her anymore because she's a god. And they hinted towards that, and they also hinted at her being a lot smarter. The bad guy in the first episode, she knows who he is at the very beginning. They know who did what they did, and then she goes and she drops him off in the taker. So the first episode leaves off very badass, and this quickly changes in episode two. Episode two, the first thing that happens is she fights a character with psychic abilities, a psychic ability stronger than John Jones, which I don't agree on, but they pretty much nerfed Martian Manhunter in this series to make him not as strong as he should be. Maybe hopefully later on he gets more powerful, but back to this weakens her. It kind of shows her that she's not as strong as she is, or she's not as godly as she portrayed herself to be. And then they go to episode three, which doesn't progress this story line more, but what it does do is it progresses John Jones' story, and they end up going back to Mars, and he learns his father is still alive, so he's not the last Green Martian alive. And there's a lot of story progression in this episode. But back to episode four, this episode really killed my theory on her becoming like this godlike creature, because there are people who were saved from her from the very first time, or a guy who decides to start a religion based off of her, and he goes and he collects all the different information on Kryptonians and stuff like that, and he finds basically a lesson from their god, the Kryptonian god, and he goes and he kind of twisted his own way and making it into that she's there to save them, and that she saves them, they will become anointed basically, and he basically twists their version, or Kryptonian's version of God, into his own interpretation, and it's the play on what's actually happening now with Mohammed and the Muslims that's going on. There's one group of Muslims that believe that there shouldn't be anybody hurting, and then there's another group twisting it in a different way. So I really like how they kind of played that real world thing into Supergirl. And but so yeah, so the guy believes that if Supergirl saves them, they are now anointed, or they're now saved. But so he decides to save a whole bunch of people at one time by bringing a bomb under the city and using that because he'll know that she'll save them, and then they'll all be anointed. But there ended up being kryptonite there, and he's showing all his followers that she can be weak, and she even cuts herself to see I bleed too, just to show that she's not a god. So around episode four, they give up this whole god notion that she was feeling in episode one. Um, and I'm kind of I don't understand exactly where they're gonna go from here now. Now that she's given up being a god, and that whole perspective of it, I definitely don't understand where they're gonna go. Then we go to episode five. Well, actually, now that I think about it, episode five is more about Lena and the lead poisoning. So it's answering what happened, or it's going back to what happened in the season finale for season two, and showing that they threw off a lead bomb, which of course would affect everybody. Even though they said that this shouldn't affect nobody or anything like that. It's still lead that they just dispersed all over the world. I mean, yeah, but yeah, all over the world. And if you think about it, that's the same thing that happened in Flint, Michigan. Lead got into the water, so they were kind of doing a play on that, or kind of exploring that. A lot of kids were getting sick, and we find out that the guy from the first episode that she dropped off has not quit his evil ways, and in fact is still going at it. And he even goes at Supergirl and he tells him that basically she's a bitch and she doesn't have what it is to be that god. And she can't do anything because if you're not willing to kill, then you're not willing. You can't really stop him. He has all the money in the world, etc., etc. Is the way that they were going. But also, I forgot in the background of all of this, they introduced a new character who basically took over Lena's role because in the first episode, Lena Luthor decided to buy Cat Grant's company, and when she did that, I guess she decided to go all in on that and decided to give her company, which I would say does a lot more than anybody else's. Or you can do so much because it's a science tech company. There's not that much you can do with media, but she decides to throw that in the back burner and hire somebody else to, take over that role. And this person is, from what they've been hitting through all season, is a Kryptonian, but is a messed up Kryptonian. She had some special incarnations, so maybe she's gonna be a play of God, and Kara's gonna be like, "You're not a god. But they're so vague with it right now because they showed her having superpowers, but then they show her not having superpowers, and all throughout the first 5 episodes, she's been on and off. Well, no, there's only been two incidents where she really showed off her superpowers. She even got shot, and no damage to her. And it only happens whenever she's in extreme danger and she's not thinking about it and she just reacts so far, but I'm willing. I really want to see where this is going. My guess, uh, she's gonna be the final bad guy, or she's not gonna be in control of herself, and finally she's gonna wake up towards the end of the season when she's fighting Kara or something like that. All right, so now we're going on to Flash, which I wasn't really excited for it, mainly because there was no motivation coming off the last season. They pretty much just put him in the Speed Force, and they so this season is pretty much open. It's open to anything. Anything could happen. So when he came out of the Speed Force and he was moving as fast as possible, and then he wasn't speaking English, I was really excited because I thought he was gonna be um, really, really smart, or really, really intelligible, that he couldn't talk to them because they mentioned that he was in the Speed Force for 6 months, but in the Speed Force time works differently, so he could have been there for thousands of years. So he might have learned, and the way the Speed Force works, depending on what iteration or comic book you're reading, it could have been like a constant flow of time, or maybe well, they were saying that he was in a prison. They were saying that he was in a prison, but the way that they brought it to him, it didn't seem like he was living his worst. Or the way they asked him to come into the Speed Force, it didn't seem like he was trapped in a prison. It seemed like they wanted him there, maybe to teach him something. So I just thought that he would come out as a better speedster, or maybe even some more new tricks or anything like that. And he also came out speaking a different language, so I thought maybe he was just way too smart to know with the primitive language, or if you learn so much from it. But it seems like as soon as he snaps out of it at the end of the episode, he basically goes back to normal and he forgets everything, either that he learned in the Speed Force, or that alternate personality that came out when he did. Maybe he gained an alternate personality being locked up in the Speed Force, and that one's still just deep inside of him, and it might come out towards the end of the season. So that could be really, really dope. Um, and then we go on to find out that I really like this new writing staff for CW because they're making these heroes more less of a beginner and more like they're finally into their groove, or they're not master detectives yet. Like late game Batman, but they're in the middle, so like they're not too slow behind opponents. They're just trying to think. They're trying to think ahead of the time instead of being always behind. So I'm really liking that. They find out, they do some investigation. I believe episode 3 or 4, they get a new guy who, Mr. Damn, I forgot his name, but he's the stretchy guy who's been popping up lately in the cartoons. They get him, and he mentions a name, and Flash instantly remembers that name. So they're already at the point where like we're not guessing who's this guy, who's this guy. They're kind of already looking for who this bad guy is. So that's going to be the great thing. Also, let me take a step back to episode 2, which is I want to say I was really hyped for it, and then it sucked too because he got his new suit, and his new suit was badass. It was the Flash mixed with Iron Man. He had so many. In fact, I think he had so many different technologies. I mean, different weapons and things in there. He had more than Iron Man. If I would think he had so many different things that Cisco built into his suit that I was really impressed. I was like, man, this would be a badass like Flash, like Iron Man mixed with whatchamacallit. Iron Man mixed with Flash is I don't know by far, but yeah, he ended up fighting the tech who can control tech, and after that he's like throw out all the tech, which I don't agree with. I'd be like throw out some of this more air device. I mean, some of the stuff that can impede me, but still keep the fucking monitors in my eyes and maybe a laser beam or something. I mean, how could that not help? But yeah, they ended up throwing all the tech out, which was disappointing. Oh yeah, before I forget, the therapy scene. I was really disappointed with the therapy scene because in New 52 he also goes to therapy, but it's kind of funny because he would like go save crime in between like restroom breaks, like because the city's being rebuilt and stuff. And while he's talking to the therapist, or he'll tell the therapist to like look behind him, like look, oh, what's that behind you? And like when he looks real quick, he'll go and like save somebody and be right back. Which I'm kind of disappointed they didn't do that. They made him kind of look flaky. He was like, oh, I gotta go, which I guess is more realistic, but still, and that's kind of how they played off the therapy system, where like he's always leaving because of work. Is what it was more pushed into compared to like just showing off his powers like they did in the comic book. Also, the Caitlyn thing. It seems like they're gonna try to start fusing her back into one character. Um, which I guess will be better for the development instead of it being like, oh, this side did the bad thing, this side did the good thing, to make it more of a overall not too good, not too bad character. That would be definitely good to see. I also like what they're doing with Cisco and Gypsy. That character development that they're finally like together, and she's showing like her more vulnerable side to him, and then her dad like showing her dad too. That is pretty hilarious, and I really like how where they're going with that. On top of how they brought a Wells back, I still think he's lying about her wanting to break up with Wally West, and I feel like that breakup cube was actually for him instead of Wally West, and that's why it was so chopped up because he broke up the message to make it seem like it was for Wally West to make like if I can't be happy with Jesse, then I'm kind of getting back at both. I'm getting back at Jesse by not letting her be happy with Wally West, but who knows exactly how that's going. Maybe she did want to break up with him because he was too busy being the Flash of his world, and she was second notion. But I don't think so because he's the Flash of her world, so she would understand, more. But who knows? Also, Iris West has really changed this season. She was during those 6 months Barry was gone. She became the new team captain. She took charge. she wanted to keep the city safe since Barry was gone, and now that Barry's back, she's upset for Adam for leaving, which they talk about it in therapy. But also, him and her conflicting on different opinions or how things should be run because he's used to being team captain, so they're naturally butting heads on, which ways to go or which plays to run. But it seems like that is short lived too, because it seems like that easily got flipped and it's not there anymore. Now it's time to talk about DC Legends tomorrow. Last season's finale was, I want to say, it was great. Now that we come back to this season, and the first thing that happens is Rick goes back in time and just fixes everything and comes back with the new team and then ditches the Legends. I guess I was okay with that. I was hoping to see, I guess, more of a whole new cast, but then they go and they show like what Sarah's doing right now, and she's working at a basically a bath body and beyond or whatever. And I just don't agree with it. Like I understand she died twice and that's on her record, and but she is a mercenary killer, so she could have been on anybody's security, any kind of you know what I mean, any kind of mercenary or anything. She could have been hired, help for hire anything, any kind of protection. She even has ties with Oliver Queen, or Oliver Queen has buddies in the Brafa. He could have got her a good job, but I guess she wanted to try to do this on her own, try to go live a normal life. So she was unhappy with it. Just like everybody else in the Legends, once you time travel, how can you go back to a normal life unless you have loved ones that have babies, like Dr. Stein and his daughter, and his being pregnant and gonna be having a grandson. So they have like great conflict with this. My main thing with DC Legends of Tomorrow and story wise is like the Sarah is looking up to Rip Hunter, and I just don't like how they like for the longest they're trying to prove him wrong, and they have that kind of attitude, which they kill on the episode 5, where Rip basically tells them, I'm not listening to Sarah. You guys aren't looking at the bigger picture. The bigger picture is this guy, and he makes the decision. So they're clashing heads, just like how Barry and Iris were, but this one is very more like way more serious. He locks them into their ship, and he goes and he makes a rash decision, which ends up not paying off like normal. And but this ends with the Time Brigade that he creates going after him or putting him in jail, and the Legends basically giving him up for their freedom, because the whole time the Legends are being chased by these guys, which I didn't like at all, and I'm glad it's over. I'm glad that's done. I just like I understand where they're going. Now we have a huge a god that, which I still don't understand too, because this god is speaking through people, and it seemed like this guy was taking over Damien's body, but now is Damien, because Damien still has the same personality. I was hoping that at least if like they use his body, but then he's gonna be like all power, like he's gonna be a different. He's like he's gonna be possessed the whole time, but no, it doesn't seem like that. He's just using Damien, um, to be his minion. So seems like we're gonna get a few more minions throughout the season before we see the final boss. Maybe in the last 5 episodes is what I believe is what's gonna happen. Rip is gonna break out of jail, and he's gonna be doing his own thing separately from the Legends. And maybe the last 5 episodes, when that guy, the final crisis guy, is there, Rip, you know, does something to make up with the crew and say, I'm gonna listen to Sarah now. While this whole time, Sarah and the crew are going out doing their thing. The major thing about DC Legends tomorrow is that Firestorm is trying to separate, which I really do want to see, but that I wonder how that's gonna affect their transmutation, because Jackson is smart. He's a mechanic and he can uh work on the ship, but he's not Dr. Stein. So I wonder if he's gonna do some studying with Dr. Stein, maybe get his equations up, and be able to transmute a lot more because we're not seeing that. They teased that I think in like season two, and ever in season three they may have done it one time. Um, and I would like to see that because that's a big part of Firestorm. So hopefully, once they get him separated and he's doing his more thing, he can be Firestorm as much as possible. Maybe he's practicing a lot more on just his understanding his powers. Hopefully, that comes into term. We have the new chick who has, I believe, the ability to control wind, which is going to be very powerful for her. But she's still like learning her emotions and things like that to go along. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about Arrow. Arrow was the most exciting one to come off the last season finale because there was a big event that happened. The big explosion where we didn't know who would live, who would die, who would have injuries. And basically they solved that for us. They showed that Thea is in a coma. Oliver's baby mama dead. Um, who else? Diggle injured, arm not shaking, and the first episode really explores that. It shows Diggle actually not shooting his gun at all and getting Wild Dog almost killed, and it also shows Thea in the hospital. And now that uh his old girl's baby mama is dead, now Oliver has to take care of a child. So now he's trying to be mayor, take care of the child and Arrow. And this thing is a big, there's like being a dad is hard. Working a full time job that's the mayor, I'm telling you, that's probably harder than any of a regular, or what you qualify as a regular 9 to 5. And then on top of that, being Green Arrow, you could never comprehend what that would be being the vigilante. So he has a full plate, and you can see that his plate is spilling over. You know, he's missing time with being his child, and that's the one he's not prioritizing the most because if you were to list those three things on what's important, being a vigilante or saving people's lives is going to be on top. And then being the mayor, which also deals with people's lives, are going to probably be more important to your son, which that shouldn't be, but that's just how the cookie crumbles. And this juggling that has to happen, makes him choose. So with all that going on, him being a vigilante, and he's not, since he has this team, and he's more of a, like I said, the mid level of being a hero. He's not quite in front of how bad guys are, but he like they're still a step behind, but they're not as far back as they were in like the first season, where like they have no clue what's going on. Like they came and fucked up the lair, but they were like check to see if something's missing, and and something was missing. So they're on it. They're a little bit more on their game than usual, which I'm definitely liking. And having this new team of rookies on top of Diggle being who he is, even though his arm is shaking and he can't perform as well, or he can't even make a shot, which they're showing, and he's being scared. But with Arrow being Oliver being so jam packed, he decides to give up the mantle, and he decides to give it up to Diggle because Diggle is the only one he trusts the most. He's the one who's been there since the start, and Diggle can't turn it down. So he ends up using drugs to sterilize or to stabilize his hand. So this is a very interesting turn of event. I mean, we've seen this happen before, but there's it's not like nobody knows because the Black Canary has caught on quickly. He knows that his hands shaking. They notice that his decision makings aren't on point, and he's working on that. He's not used to being the one who's calling the shots, so that's what they're getting back into his role. and he actually caused Wild Dog to go into the hospital because he wasn't shooting, and one of the bad guys shot him and shot him off the off the top rope, basically almost killing him. So now we have that responsibility role that's put on to him, and he's like, I can't. He asked me to do it. I can't tell him. I couldn't. He was gonna tell him about the his arm shaking, but the moment he did, or right before he did, Oliver was like, "I want you to be the new Green Arrow. I want you to take over. I have a son now, and I don't have the time. Even though Diggle has a son too, but Diggle has a wife, and they're able to juggle. Even though I don't understand how, with her being Amanda, basically new Amanda Wild, or head of Argus. I don't understand how his son is being taken care of. Maybe they have like parents or something like that taking care of their kid, but I don't understand. But all this is going on, so there's a lot of character development, which I like. I appreciate him being the new Arrow, but I kind of still want to see. I feel like Oliver still has a lot of stories or a lot of progression going. I kind of want to see Oliver go into the Justice League, and then like them making the Justice League where Oliver is part of it, but they left Diggle to be the Green Arrow in his city while he was being Green Arrow of the world, kind of thing. That's what I was hoping for. Also, they're also being investigated by the FBI, which is another reason for him to give up his mantle, because all the things point to him. So if he can make another Green Arrow, they won't have a case. Is kind of what he's going for on him, and he can't go to jail because he has this new son which he needs to take care of. So this kind of helps him. Also, on top of that too, there's a law trying to be made against taking out vigilantes, or not allowing them, outlawing them. So he's trying to fight that. So he's he's trying to be the on the that side of the law, the right side of the law, and fighting, helping them, trying to assist them as much as they can. So we getting that from him. Also, the side cast, the Felicity is back with Oliver, and it looks like they're going great. And doesn't seem like any problems were going on. And I think that's what's helping the story move along. But Felicity and Miss Terrific is also making a startup company. So that thing is going on at the same time. Renee is looking into getting his daughter back again, which that would be great. Overall, they're really pushing a great storyline. We're seeing some Slade stuff, which was very shocking. Seeing his son actually being a bad guy, or a trapping slave. So we get to see where that's gonna go. That might be another branching off story. We might get a Deathstroke miniseries or something. Who knows? But they did tease Crisis on Two Earths, and that is going to be very interesting to see. So I'm really excited for that. Hopefully, we can combine the two worlds, and we can see a lot more of interchanging, or a lot of Supergirl showing up in Flash. And not even as like to save the day. Maybe just like a cameo saying, "Hey, I was in the neighborhood, got some coffee," or "Oh, I can give you some expert advice," or things like that. Maybe win. Or anybody, Martian Manhunter, being able to move around from the different cities once the two universes combine as one. Because I feel like that's what they're gonna go with on Crisis on Two Earths. But who knows exactly? Maybe it's not that. It won't be that deep. Hopefully it is, because I would love them to finally, because I've been waiting for them. I thought Flashpoint was gonna combine the worlds, but it didn't. So I've been waiting for them to combine the worlds, because they already have a Batman. So I'm hoping that they bring a Batman over, and they might do a Justice League, and then turn Flash into to where Wally West takes over Flash. And they already gave John Diggle Arrow, so they can continue the story with John Diggle while they have a Justice League with Oliver Queen and Barry Allen and the Batman and Superman. This is my thoughts, but I'm going to go ahead and end the video here. Let me know what you guys think. Also, let me know how y'all like this. Do y'all like me to do like the 5 episode thing, or y'all just want me to season finale overall? Speaking of each one, or maybe a 5 episode breakdown of each one, maybe. So it's not like a 30-minute thing. Maybe it's like a 15 or 10 minute on each show. Comment back. Let me get some feedback just to know how y'all feel. I think I'm out.